Welcome to another exciting episode of the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Brad Sugars, the Chairman and CEO of Actioncoach, and today we're diving into the minds of some incredible business leaders, uncovering their real stories, strategies, and the secrets behind their victories. It's not just about success, it's about the journey, the hurdles, and turning challenges into opportunities. So let's jump right into it.
So I'd like to introduce Max Fuhrer to the episode of Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. Max owns Aro Bake. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Yeah, that's good.
Aro Bake, a bakery with 2 locations and 120 plus wholesale customers in Wellington in New Zealand. Max has been in business for 36 years and employs 42 team members. So welcome, Max.
Oh, thanks, Phil.
So let's start with the top 3 things you did that have made you successful in business and how others could possibly follow in your footsteps.
Right. Gee, top 3 things, eh? Well, I suppose the first thing I'd think of is, I just stuck to it, really. Stuck to it. Sort of I had a vision of what I wanted to do. And I'm a baker pastry cook, so I did an apprenticeship. I travelled to Switzerland and worked there. My dad's Swiss, so I worked as a baker pastry cook.
Okay.
In Switzerland for 3 years, and already then, even during my apprenticeship, I had this idea I was going into business. My dad had been a businessman, and I did that, and quickly discovered I knew nothing about business, but could do what I did, and we had this incredible increase at the beginning. It was like, I don't know, it was like 5-fold in the first year, and it was
wow.
and then I had to start employing, because it started from nothing, it was just me, an apprentice, and someone in the shop, and then had to start employing people, and had to start learning. But stick to it. Probably is number one. I just stuck to it.
Yeah. And what were some of the key lessons that you actually learned along the way?
That I needed to grow. It was probably number one, really. I needed to learn. I needed to learn stuff. I needed to grow as a person, and
So that's interesting, Max. When you say you needed to learn and you needed to grow, what were some of the key things that you've identified along the way that were important as part of that learning?
Learning to be a businessman, I suppose. And I suppose it's that old cliche. A tradesman who's pretty good at their trade decided to go into business, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is not what I actually learned. The baking was still fundamental to what we do. On that quality side, but the whole animal, of the business is a whole different thing, and I started off without, not even having a proper brand, or we just dove in this old premises, and there were so many things, that you just, which seem obvious that you do at the beginning that I didn't do,
Yeah. So, if you think back along that part of the journey, coming back to, what are the, 2 or 3 things that really made you successful, the things that you actually did, back early in that journey?
I suppose, what are some of the things I did? I was flexible, I suppose. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, just learned to just do whatever was needed next, which I suppose that's coupled with that determination, or I never let up, and
right,
so if there was a roadblock, if there was some sort of a hurdle, it was like, how do we solve this? How do we get over it? What are the steps? What do we need to know? What do we need to do? So that willingness to learn, that willingness to push on, I think.
And look, learning is one of those most important things that we need to do as business owners. And I know back through my corporate career, and I've probably learnt more in the last 15 years in business than I did right throughout my corporate career. And it was only because I'd consciously stopped, I guess, reading, watching business type of learning material. And, it's something that I really encourage, certainly my clients, that don't stop that learning. So, yeah, well done. So, again, going back to that beginning, what made you decide to get into the business? And then why this business, and understanding that, it's probably a bit of a family career path.
Yeah. So, I got early on. I had a desire to be a pastry cook. When I was 13, I took a trip to Europe with my parents, and that's when I first had that idea of that might be a career path for me. And I mucked around at school and left school early and started baking. and yeah, I don't know. Right from the beginning, I imagined that this was leading me to go into business.
So you had that desire from a young age.
Yeah. My brother, he was a butcher. He's 4 years older than me, and he did an apprenticeship and opened a butcher shop. Yeah, so. And I'd seen it a bit in my family otherwise. My dad had been in various different businesses. He originally a cheesemaker, and then, had a fencing business and had a poultry farm. And, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not in that order, but, yeah.
Yeah. So in all of that time then, Max, what's been your biggest challenge that you've had to face, and then how did you actually overcome it?
Like in the last 36 years, what's the biggest challenge? Or there's been a few. I mean, staying in business has been a challenge at times. Right at the beginning, we grew so fast, and then had to borrow money, and then after 2 years, I thought this is the bank was bouncing some checks, and I was like, we're not going to get through this. That's what. So just, I think so. What's the biggest challenge? I don't know. So I think how I got through that though was just I just grit my teeth and just did what I needed to do, and you work some unbelievable hours at the beginning too, like when you started a business, to do a 14-hour day was like normal.
The norm, yeah. Yeah. And I think you alluded to it a little bit earlier that perseverance, persistence. Tell me, how much of a self-belief came into play in those earlier days?
Yeah, lots. I mean, I don't know where that comes from. But it just, I have that. Like even now, I'm just actually starting a new venture, and it's like my wife thinks I'm mad, and it's just like, well,
it's what I do.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at business coaching for a minute. So first of all, who is your business coach?
Chris Whelan, he's my business coach.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so, why did you get one, and what has it done for you and the business?
Okay, so I've only worked with Chris this year, and that's just been helpful. I had a business coach back in 2012 too,
okay.
which was sort of a bit of a pressure point in time when we had this big client who had lots of stores in Wellington, probably about 8 stores, I think 8 or 9 stores. And they just from just overnight, they started getting the stuff. They didn't even tell us, like one day they were ordering, the next day they weren't. So, and there was a bit of a tight spot, and something led me to this talk where I got a business coach, and I learned a whole lot of things just to be more proactive. And I worked with this guy for several years, and that was really fruitful, really. And I got all sorts of KPIs in place and different systems, and I got a CRM at that point in time. And then now, just more recently, I don't know, maybe last year I was feeling I was sometimes just procrastinating a little bit, or you got to, because I'm my driver in a way, so
Absolutely.
yeah, and then I just had this. I sort of thought about something, and Chris turned up, and I thought, yeah, let's do this, and so more thinking about, maybe we're thinking about more exit strategies a little bit. Maybe not so much. I don't have any plan. I don't have any real plans of stopping. But yeah, maybe just getting things to run more, to get the place more systemized. Yeah, and running under management. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned KPIs a little bit earlier, Max. How important has been understanding or knowing what your KPIs are, and what were the thing? How did you actually utilize the information that the KPIs were then demonstrating for you?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I've probably always had my finger on the pulse reasonably through my accounting system, but then just, because things had dropped off. And so, yeah, so just under measure everything was just like super good, and just have really good reports, because we got retail, we got wholesale. We also have another customer who sells on our behalf. There's a big sort of food market here in Wellington called More Wilson's. And we've got online sales. So there's all these different channels of income, and just sort of measuring them helps you. And then developing budgets, which then sort of just helps you have a focus on them, and then developing plans around those numbers, So how can we drive more people into the shops? How can we get more wholesale customers? Yeah.
And in understanding your numbers then, Max, how important was understanding those numbers to help you make better decisions as you progressed on your journey?
Yeah, that was really good. That's when I sort of really felt like, and that's probably when I got out of the bakery a little bit, when I first did this, and more in the office, and sort of realized I was a businessman, and and actually really loved that too. So like, it's like, oh my, and I'm really enthusiastic about what I do, and about the potential that there is, and there's actually just so much potential. I mean, we've got this massive, 500 square meter premises, and we can bake for ourselves, we can bake for other people, we can open stores, we can try and get into super. I mean, there's, we're our own. Yeah, the only people who can stop us is ourselves, really. There's so many possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an abundance of opportunity.
That's right. Yeah.
Just waiting for you to go down that path if you so choose.
That's right. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Fantastic. In terms of the systems that you've implemented, then, what's been some of the most important systems that you've implemented that have made a real difference into the business?
Right. Recently, or
anywhere along the path? Could be recent.
Anywhere along. Yeah, we probably have we have a lot of systems maybe not well documented in a way, because the place runs pretty smooth. Like I said, I'm our biggest critic probably, and there's little hiccups, but honestly, the place runs, in a lot of ways, it runs like clockwork, and there's lots of parts to it, so it works really well. So yeah, just making sure everybody's on board and understands what their responsibilities are. Yeah, I think, yeah. And beyond systems, I think people are so important, because I've got a big group of people who have been with me for a long time, and so they're super loyal, and they seem to help keep a good team culture. And if we get someone new and they don't fit in, the team sort of weeds them out, rather than me, So yeah. And when I hear stories about other places, sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, it sounds like chaos, and yeah, and staffing issues and all sorts of things like that. And
I think that you've really touched on an important point in business. Is the culture in the business just becomes so important, and when you've got a good culture in the business, that's how your team members, they know how to get the right people on the bus. And, as you alluded to, how to weed out the people that are not going to fit into the culture.
Right.
So, which takes a lot of pressure off you as the business owner as well.
Right, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms then of, looking at some of the other systems that you've implemented in the business, how important have standard operating procedures or SOPs been for you?
Yeah, talking in words I don't even know what it means.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're like currently with Chris, we're trying to like nail down sort of all our systems, and we sort of started with the top end. I drew like a top end of how like the whole wholesale flows, for orders coming in, so all the steps, and then we just want to like develop systems on each one of those, or just clarity, because that's the other thing I noticed. We have had quite a lot of growth in the last few years, and it's in those times sometimes that you end up with Chinese whispers, like
Yeah.
You thought everyone knew what they were doing, but you get a few new people, and somehow it's just like, oh, what's happened? Like, no, we don't want to do it like this. We're doing it like that. So it's just that realization that I have to have that somewhere clear, so we can just refer back to it, and then so people know this is the expectation, this is the way we're doing it. It's not that those things can't be changed, or if there's a better way, let's do it a better way, but that we do have a way,
Yes, yeah. And I guess that's where your standard operating procedures really start to come into play. Everybody knowing what exactly they're responsible to do, and how that contributes to the overall success of the business. Yeah. Okay. All right. The final question there, Max. What's the top piece of advice that you got or would give to another entrepreneur?
Oh, just starting out, or?
Well, it could be anywhere along that
anywhere along the line. Yeah. What's the best type of advice? I don't know. Enjoy the ride, maybe, or there's because you got to have a life as well. So just trying to think what my best advice would be.
Maybe putting it in a different way then is, if you were to start business over again, what would you do differently next time? Right.
Yeah, I'd have a little bit more of a plan at the beginning, I think. So maybe start with a plan. Yeah, with I might have had I sort of had a vision of the end, but I didn't know how to get there.
Didn't have a plan on what the steps were that you would be required to take.
Yeah. So just work on a plan. Get someone to sit down with you and have a plan. Yeah. Just to think about what your organisation might look like in the future, so you can, and all the pieces that involves. So ultimately, you're probably doing all those jobs. So all those jobs that you might step people into, and getting clarity on those. So have a plan, have an organizational structure with job descriptions.
Yep.
Yeah. Just so
Yeah. No.
You got a sort of an easier way forwards. Yeah.
No. Some great advice there, Max. And in our chairman's words, it's always important to start with the end in mind,
right,
and work backwards from there.
Right. Yes. Right.
What's that vision going to look like? So, congratulations and well done. So, thank you for participating in this Epic Entrepreneurs podcast.
Okay. Thank you.
I wish you really well in your future endeavours.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Max.
Great. Thank you, Phil.
And that's a wrap for today's epic conversation here on Epic Entrepreneurs. Huge thanks to our amazing guest for their pouring their heart into sharing their journey. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share it, or hit that bell. But until next time, let's make sure you keep dreaming, take massive action, and stay epic.